For those that are unfamiliar with this channel or are just healthy skeptics, I feel that I need to explain what this channel is about. When there's Nintendo news, we break it down. When we have cool theories, we try to make as compelling of a case as possible about them. When there's rumors that seem like they have some semblance of meaning, we dissect them. And every once in a while, we might hear something and we talk about it. I'm not going to pretend to be this big industry insider, I'm not. I just make YouTube videos and I have a lot of friends. And in the past, we've talked about things that have turned out to be true. Just some examples. We talked about for a long time that there would be a 2D Metroid game with 3D visuals with camera perspective changes that would be made by Mercury Steam. And now we have Metroid Dread. For years, we talked about how it would be amazing if there was a 3D Donkey Kong game that played like Tarzan. And now we've heard about this canceled Donkey Kong project that was just that. And just recently, this past weekend, along with a few other people, we put out a video talking about how there would be major Tears of the Kingdom news coming out on a Tuesday. And just a couple days later, sure enough, this Tuesday, we got the Tears of the Kingdom gameplay demonstration. We don't always get it right, so please take this with a grain of salt. And because of the nature of the situation, I can't tell you the source. So if you don't want to trust me, that's totally fine, but I am relaying what I've heard because it's what I do. What I've heard is Metroid Prime 4 is complete. What does this mean exactly? When are we going to see this game, and what does it suggest for Nintendo's plan for 2023 and beyond? Well, that's what we'll be speculating on today.
Hey, listen!
Welcome everyone, this is Andres Restart, and yes, we're talking about Metroid Prime 4 and how Nintendo plans to deliver this game to us, because I do believe it is indeed complete. Now before we jump into things, let me point out we've been aiming for 25,000 subscribers by the time Tears of the Kingdom comes out on May 12th, so if you enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit that notification bell, because then we might just make it. So firstly, let's talk about Metroid Prime 4 being complete, as I've heard. Metroid Prime 4 being complete isn't really that much of a shocker to me, because consider this, back in January, we already saw LinkedIn profile listings suggesting that Retro Studios is hiring for new AAA games because that's what they're literally hiring for, and they're not listing for Metroid Prime 4. They used to list hirings for Metroid Prime 4, and now they're not, suggesting that they're now moving on to the next big thing, meaning that their current thing is either cancelled or done. And I don't think it's likely that Prime 4 has been cancelled. And when you also consider that they just dropped Prime Remastered, and that it seems like that game has been held back for quite some time. Actually, we saw some evidence that the game was rated back in summer of 2021, implying that it has been held back for a long time, and the fact that it's come out only just recently as a surprise shadow drop, I think that does say that perhaps Prime 4 is not too far off. So when you consider the job hirings from Retro Studios, when you consider this Prime Remaster situation, when you consider how long Prime 4 has been in development, they announced the restart back in January of 2019. We are now at the end of March of 2023. It's been more than 4 years, and that's assuming they started January 2019. There might have been some legwork done before then. There has been a reasonable amount of time for this game to have been completed. So Prime 4 being complete is not a shocker. But just because it's complete does not mean it's coming out this year. It could come out this year, but it could be saved for next year. It's a tough call. But I'll go back to Prime Remaster just coming out. I think Prime Remaster coming out in the way it has does show that Nintendo has more Metroid Prime series related announcements coming in the not so distant future. It could be related to Prime 2 and 3, maybe we get those first and then Prime 4. I'm personally uncertain of how they're going to bring up Prime 4. It's a debate for me if we're going to get 2 and 3 beforehand or not. I would love to see them. Maybe what happens is when they show off Prime 4 with that initial teaser, they shall drop 2 and 3 together, or they shall drop one and then the other, and then a few months later down the road we get Prime 4. It's tough to say how they're going to handle it, but I am inclined to believe that Metroid Prime 4 is coming out potentially by the end of this year, and if not, sometime next year is almost a shoo-in in my opinion. But I still have two major considerations here surrounding this subject. One has to do with what comes out after Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom comes out May 12th. Then June has nothing, Pikmin 4 comes out in July, and there's nothing else afterwards. Some have argued that Nintendo's going to have a dry lineup after Tears of the Kingdom until maybe they come out with the next system, the Switch 2. But when you consider that Nintendo's had a consistent lineup throughout the entire Switch era, they've unified their gaming divisions, they've actually been holding back on a lot of games. Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD, we have no idea when those are coming out, but they've been saved for a long time supposedly. Prime Remaster supposedly could have been out sometime in 2021. Point being, Nintendo's gonna have a lineup, and even Andy Robinson has rescinded some of his words suggesting that Nintendo wouldn't have much of a lineup after Tears of the Kingdom, but more so that they actually are building up a lineup, it just might be happening a little bit later into the year. So there will be a lineup after Tears of the Kingdom. But even with that said, Tears of the Kingdom is the hype right now, is the buzz around Nintendo. And when that's done, what is next? Nintendo could be lining up a few things here. A 3D Mario shortly after the release of the Mario movie, that makes sense. We've talked about this Donkey Kong project, and now several other people have come out to corroborate the story that there was this canceled project, but it then led to Nintendo working on their own project, and we don't know what that's going to be, but they are working on something major Donkey Kong. We consider the park, we consider the movie. There could be a big Donkey Kong game coming in the not so distant future as well. And now we are hearing that Metroid Prime 4 is complete. There are some big Nintendo games on the horizon, and Nintendo is likely going to want to start showcasing them shortly after Tears of the Kingdom to give us some buzz. And June is typically when we get a direct. Now, not always, there's been some exceptions, but when you consider that Pikmin 4 is the last known game with a slated release date for this year excluding DLC stuff, we're probably going to get some type of announcement or series of announcements, maybe in a direct, in the summertime. If not June, maybe July, because they're not going to skip both June, have just one game in Pikmin 4 in July, and have nothing in August. There's going to be something soon, I would bet. And in this event, we may see some big announcements, like for Mario, like for Donkey Kong, like for something else, or maybe even for Metroid Prime 4. There needs to be that next big killer AAA game that's going to excite us hardcore Nintendo fans. But the other consideration, because I did mention 2 earlier, is that Nintendo Switch 2. That is on the horizon. That is why some think that there won't be much of a lineup after Tears of the Kingdom, because Nintendo's gearing up for Nintendo Switch 2. And many think it's coming out in 2024, and I think that there's definitely reason to believe that, but there has been supporting evidence that this system is coming out sooner than later. There was the Pokemon leak suggesting that there would be a graphics patch coming out in winter 2023, which could mean as late as maybe March of next year, but that will be for a Pokemon game, implying that maybe the system comes out before then, perhaps as early as this holiday. We just got information suggesting that there may be some dev kits out there ready for this system, so if that's the case, is a holiday release a stretch? I'm not so sure. It could be the case, and Prime 4 might be a launch window title for this game, and even if Switch 2 is coming out next year, we're getting close to when they may want to showcase that system, and Prime 4 may very well be a prime candidate, pun intended, to showcase that system. But another angle here is that even if Switch 2 isn't ready for this year, this might be the ideal time to put out Metroid Prime 4. Would it be nice to see it launch a new system? Sure. But I think 3D Mario is the bigger seller, historically, if it's not Zelda, it's Mario, that they use to push systems, so that makes more sense to push the hardware. If Switch 2 isn't ready, Prime 4 could be that big exciting holiday release to hold us over until next year, and it might be the ideal time to do it because finally Prime 4 may have the focus and it may perform quite well. And for those wondering, well, what about a superior Switch 2 version? Well, just like Tears of the Kingdom, just like this Pokemon leak suggesting there will be a graphics patch for even Scarlet and Violet, some big Nintendo games will probably receive patches, maybe some DLC to hype things up, maybe a special Game of the Year release or deluxe edition. There are ways to have something prepared for these different big games. Personally, because I think Switch 2 is going to be backwards compatible with Switch because of how successful it is, and they're going to want to maintain that momentum for a few years to come, I think Prime and Zelda and a few others are just going to get graphics patches on the next system, and you won't need to buy the game again or anything like that. And it's going to be fine, but they will have something prepared to hype us up again, get a second win for these big games when the system does come around. The ultimate point for this video is this: Metroid Prime 4 is done. That's what I've heard. I can't prove it to you. You'll just have to take my word for it, or don't. You don't have to. But that's what I've heard, and I'm just going to tell you the truth. And that's what it is. And I think that the Metroid Prime 4 hype cycle is just around the corner. Prime Remaster, you can argue, is already the beginning. It's a bit of an appetizer. Once Tears of the Kingdom is done, Nintendo's not going to let us go along without having something else to be the big buzz. And I think Prime 4 might be a big part of that. But we'll see what happens. Anyways, everyone, this is Andres Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care.